However, for this time around, I don't have the video. You can type the link or scan the barcode. Okay, if you have a pair of headphone, it would be nice. If you don't, just play it with whatever speakers that you have. Okay, I give you a couple of minutes to watch this or hear this actually.
Goodbye and arrivederci.
Get vaccine-related information.
Oh, hello there, hello there. How are you? Yes, yes. You are here for the virtual haircut? Yes, yes, okay. I will go get Luigi. He will come and cut your hair. I am Manuel. Just stay right there. Luigi? Luigi? Luigi, it's Manuel here. The person is here for your virtual haircut. You better come up.
Grazie, Manuel. I come right now.
Okay. He is coming up right now, and meanwhile I will go over here and play the music, play the guitar, because that is what I do here at the barber shop.
It's so nice to see you. Welcome to the Starkey Cetera Barbershop and your virtual haircut. I'd like to start the demonstration by moving over to your right-hand side and picking up this bag. If you just hold still for a second, I'll put this bag over your head. Just like that. The bag over the top of the head. And now I'll take the bag off. There we go. The only reason I did that is because all of the fancy barbershops do that. What you're listening to as I move off to your right here and very quickly wash my hands. Manuel, could you get that, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Manuel. Let me finish washing my hands here. Just bear with me for a few more seconds. There we go. Yes. As I was saying, all we are doing is using your head as the listening point. And we have two microphones, one on either side of the head, in the same position as where your left and your right ears are. Your brain is doing all of the work, telling you where the sounds are coming from. Okay, I'll go get the scissors. It's nice and sharp. Now, as I begin the clipping, and I bring the clippers closer to your ear, very close to the right ear. Follow me as I move around the back of the head to the left ear, and up and over the top of the head. Okay. Now, you can get the same effect better with the electric razor. I'll first bring it close to your right ear. It's perfect, and around the back, and onto your left. Yes. I think that looks wonderful. Manuel, what do you think?
Huh? What? Oh, yes. Yes. It looks wonderful, Luigi. You do such nice work.
Thank you so much, Manuel.
So fast, too.
Now, as I walk around, I just want to tell you once more that your ability to hear where I am as I walk around the room is simply the amazing power of your brain. calculating the tiny differences or cues in sound intensity and arrival time from two open ears. And unlike any other hearing instrument, only one has the digital algorithm that negates its own physical presence in the ear to fully restore those differences. That algorithm is called Cetera. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for stopping by the Starkey Virtual Barber Shop. Goodbye and arrivederci.
All right. Have you finished your visual haircut?
Yes.
Okay. So it would be nice if everything that we hear in our online interaction is something like this. But to be honest, it takes quite some effort to actually record in binaural. Okay. First thing that you need to have is two set of microphone. Okay. One on the left, the other one is on the right. Normally, when we use our mic to record our sound or to do online learning or whatever, it's just using one set of microphone. Okay, so mono recording will not give you this kind of 3D experience. Okay, it should be done using binaural microphone, and that binaural microphone should also be placed exactly at where your ear is, okay, in order to capture the actual soundscape that we experience in our daily life. But it is very interesting, right? And it captures what we have talked about last week, whereby our brain is interpreting the difference in terms of arrival time and intensity of sound that reach our left and right ears. And based on this, it creates the visual environment in our head. Okay, so we can visualize where things are just based on sound. All right. So let's move on to something that's more hardcore, I would say. Okay, numbers as usual. Okay, so before that, I used to talk about drones quite some time ago. Okay, before it becomes such a common device in our daily life. Anyone here plays drone as a hobby, or have a drone, or know something about drone? Anyone?
No, doctor.
No? Okay. You might want to take a look at drone. Drone and AI is, I would say, among the technologies that I've been approached with. Uh, a lot of people is asking for experts on these two field. Okay, one is using drone, the other one is how to use AI to make our life better. Okay, hopefully we can do that. But just like all the technologies, most of the time the advancement are pushed forward by wars, okay, by weapons. So I would say these two field most of the time are used in defense technology well before it's being used in civil technology. Okay, I used to show this video. The first two is about research on drone done in well before 2013, in the early 2000, and what the technology is capable of. Nowadays, I would say it reached this level. Okay, let me play this guy.
Customer pilots directed almost 3,000
Can you hear the sound of the video?
Can, doctor?
precision strikes last year. We're super proud of it. It allows you to separate the bad guys from the good. It's a big deal. But we have something much bigger. Can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents. They used to say guns don't kill people. People do. Well, people don't. They get emotional, disobey orders, aim high. Let's watch the weapons make the decisions. Now, trust me, these were all bad guys. Now, that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half. Nuclear is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy. These are available today. We have a distribution network taking orders from military, law enforcement, and specialist clients.
The nation is still recovering from yesterday's incident, which officials are describing as some kind of automated attack, which killed 11 U.S. senators at the Capitol building.
They flew in from everywhere but attacked just one side of the aisle. It was chaos. People were screaming.
You can see high windows, very small, precisely punctured to gain entry to the building.
What did you do for the victim?
I just did what I could for him. Things weren't even interested in me. They're just buzzing.
Government sources admit the intelligence community has no idea who perpetrated the attack, nor whether it was a state, group, or even a single individual.
So if we can't defend ourselves, then we strike back.
We are investing very heavily in classified defense projects.
We make it our deterrent like our nuclear deterrent. We stockpile in the millions, the billions.
At key facilities, the White House, the New York Stock Exchange, Wall Street.
Safe in their homes.
Well, we wish we had boots on the ground in every community in this country, but we don't. So our
Ollie?
instructions and our suggestions are to stay in touch with
Ollie, oh, hi, Ollie, honey. How's Edinburgh today? How are all your studies going, huh?
Good, great.
Oh, great. Hey, aren't we doing a video call today?
I'm kind of with people, so.
Oh, well, come on, Oliver, put her on.
Oh no, it's not like that.
Oh, well, listen, I see some photos here with somebody, and I can see lots of likes, and what's that all about? Oh, wait a minute, here, and on your
Mom, she's on the spy stuff in the military.
What is this video right here? Oh, no, I'm not going to click on that.
It's just this human rights thing about oppression or whatever.
Honey, you're not going into politics, are you? I mean, no protest.
Safe here, just like you said it would be.
Heavy traffic approaching the A720 this morning due to police.
Police are not saying this morning what prompted the alert.
Claim relaxing firearm legislation would be useless against the so-called slaughter bots.
Is to stay away from crowds. When indoors, keep windows covered with shutters.
Protect your family. Stay inside.
Mom!
Can you hear me? Oliver, can you hear me? Listen to me.
I can hear it. I can hear it, Mom.
Authorities are still struggling to make sense of an attack on university campuses worldwide, which targeted some students and not others. The search for a motive is apparently turning to social media, and a video shared by the victims exposing corruption at the high.
But it's far from surprising. The weapons took away the expense, danger, and risk of waging war.
Okay, I think it's enough of that. At the latter part of the video, you should know that this is not a real story. Okay, it's an exaggeration of what might or what can happen actually from this drone technology, and it's not a far-fetched exaggeration. Okay, because of what has been happening last year. Okay, there's a war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Basically, Armenia just give up during this war due to the overwhelming Azerbaijan drone. Okay, so they can't fight the drone coming from Azerbaijan. You can search about this yourself. Right. So basically, this war is fight totally using drone or won through drone technology. Okay, so it's coming whether you like it or not. All right, so let us go back to our small little world of noise. We've talked about sound pressure level, whereby we know we can relate pressure with dB scale. Why we want to relate pressure with dB scale? Because our ears has a very wide range of sensitivity from 20 to roughly 100 million micropascal. So in order for us to make sense, we convert this pressure unit into dB unit. And as I mentioned earlier, dB is not a real unit, it's a ratio of units. In this case, we are taking ratio of pressure with respect to pressure at our threshold of hearing. So our sound pressure level is equal to 10 log 10 sound pressure, whatever value that is, squared over our reference pressure squared. And the reference pressure is the pressure or the sound pressure at our threshold of hearing, which is 20 micropascal or 2 times 10 power minus 5 Pascal. Okay. So based on this, we can calculate what will be the sound pressure level from a value of pressure. And then we can also calculate sound intensity level. Again, in dB scale, using the same idea, sound intensity level is equals to 10 log 10 sound intensity over reference intensity. So the reference intensity is again intensity at our threshold of hearing, 10 power of minus 12 watt per meter squared or power per area. And our sound power level is equals to 10 log 10 sound power over reference power. Again, reference power at our threshold of hearing, 10 minus 12 watt. And again, if you look at the unit of sound power level and sound intensity level, both of them have the unit of dB, the same like the unit of sound pressure level. So you have to know whatever value in dB is referring to what. Is it referring to sound pressure level, sound intensity level, or sound power level? Okay. If you look at the equation, sound intensity level and sound power level looks almost the same. Okay, just one using intensity and another one is using power. However, for sound pressure level, since we know that our human ear responds to intensity squared, so the sound pressure level is in terms of pressure squared. So you have 10 log 10 sound pressure squared over reference pressure squared. Sometimes people also write this in this form. Essentially, they are the same. So you can also write this in the form of some. Oops. Okay. All right. Wow. It looks pretty bad. Okay, I'm using different writing apparatus right now. So it looks deviate here. It's 20 log 10 of sound pressure over reference pressure. Okay, again in dB. So instead of having squared here, we have 20 in the front. So you just take these two, multiply with 10, we have 20. So this another equation for sound pressure level, which is the same equation. Just rearrange the two to be in front. So as an example, let's say we have pressure equals to 1 Pascal. So based on this pressure, we can convert it into dB just by taking 20 log or 10 log 10 pressure squared, or 20 log the pressure 1 Pascal over 20 micropascal. So we have 94 dB. All right. Hopefully you know how to use log function in your calculator. So based on the log function, we can calculate what the value of the sound pressure level in dB. If pressure equals to 21.7, the sound pressure level will be equal to 124 dB. We can also use charts to convert from pressure to dB. So for example, here we have the obvious one, 1 Pascal will be equal to 94 dB. Okay, so this is basically coming from the equation of sound pressure level. It says that we plot in terms of chart. Normally in the old days, people used to carry some pocket book, okay, engineering pocket book or sound engineer pocket book. So from this pocket book, we can easily convert the value of sound from pressure to dB through charts and tables. Okay, so if you use table, it will be something like this. So we have a pressure ratio that is above 1 and also less than 1. So if we increase the pressure, or the dB value increase, so the pressure ratio will increase above 1. If the sound pressure level is reducing by a certain value, so it will be less than 1. So for example, if we have let's say some easy number here, okay, 20. So if we have sound pressure level that increased by 20 dB, our pressure ratio is actually increased by 10 times. Okay, or if we have our sound pressure that is decreasing by 10 times, the effect in dB will be a minus 20 dB. Okay, so that's how we convert between the increase in dB and also the increase in sound pressure level, or decrease in dB with decrease in sound pressure level, to this table. If you have a calculator, probably you don't need to do this, just plug in the numbers, and using the equation, plug in the numbers, you have the value of the pressure in dB or in Pascal. All right, so this simple conversion rule, of course, it's not exact, it's an approximation, but it's good enough for us to have some rule of thumb of what is really happening when we have certain sound pressure level increase or decrease, how it relates to the increase or decrease in pressure level. So let's say we have 6 dB increase from 74 to 80 dB. That corresponds to twice or double of sound pressure. So from 0.1 to 0.2 Pascal. So 6 dB increase in dB means 2 times in sound pressure. Or 10 dB increase will give you 3 times in increase of sound pressure. 20 dB will give you 10 times increase in sound pressure, and so on. Right? So this is a very handy rule of thumb. So let's say if you want to reduce the noise from 84 to 74, or basically 10 dB reduction, you have to ensure that your system will produce 1/3 of the original sound pressure in order to achieve this kind of sound pressure level reduction in dB. All right. So this example of question that can come up from sound pressure level equation. For example, we were given sound pressure level of a loudspeaker. Okay, so in a test, to measure the sound pressure level of unbaffled loudspeaker. Unbaffled means you just let it free, there's no restriction in the sound. It was found that the pressure everywhere on the surface of the imaginary sphere of radius 3 meter centered at the loudspeaker was 0.2 Pascal. So basically what you have here is, this is your speaker cone. Okay, so an imaginary radius 3 meter from the speaker cone. Okay, so here you have an imaginary sphere, so to speak, and at this radius, the pressure is equal to 0.2 Pascal. All right. So your task is to calculate what would be the sound pressure level at distance of 3 meter, or basically at this imaginary sphere surface. You were given the density and velocity of sound in air. Density of air is 1.18 kg per meter squared. As velocity of sound in the air is 344 meter per second. So based on the sound pressure level equation, we know that at 3 meter, sound pressure level is equal to 20 log 10. The pressure here, which is 0.2 Pascal, or 2 times 10 minus 1, over reference pressure, 20 micropascal, or 2 times 10 minus 5. So calculate this, you'll have 80 dB. So that will be the sound pressure level at 3 meter. And the sound power level of the source, okay, so you have the source here. So what will be the sound power level here? Right? Of course, the power will be independent of the radius. The sound pressure level will depend on the radius. If we are further away, the intensity of the sound will reduce, and of course, sound pressure level will reduce as well. However, the sound power level will remain the same. It dependent only on the loudspeaker itself. So to calculate the sound power or sound power level, we have to calculate what will be the total power first. We know power is equals to intensity times area, and in this case the area is the surface area of the sphere. All right, so I times 4 pi r squared. So this will be equals to the intensity, which is p squared over rho c times the area. So we'll have power equals to 0.0115 watt. All right. In terms of sound power level, we can use the equation 10 log 10 power over the reference power, which is 10 minus 12 watt, and we will have 100.6 dB. Again, if you look at the unit here, it's dB for sound power level and dB as well for sound pressure level. So both of them have the same dB as their units, but they are referring to different properties. One is sound pressure level, the other one is sound power level. Okay. Any questions so far? Any question?
No question, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. Since I'm in the office, I don't know whether the internet connection is reliable or not, so I'm not sure whether we are still online or not. That's the reason why I'm asking. All right. For this kind of calculation, normally the calculation itself, when you look at it, look how it is being solved, it looks pretty simple. However, when you look at the question without the answer, it might be tricky or challenging to you. Okay, so in terms of equation, not so much, but in terms of understanding the question itself, to get which is the appropriate equation to use, that's the challenge most of the time. So for this example, example 3, we want to calculate the change in sound pressure level if sound pressure is double. Okay, what will be the change in sound pressure level? This is our SPL. If the sound pressure, or P, is double. Basically, if you multiply P by 2, how much sound pressure level will change? If you remember our charts here, we know that if we multiply the sound pressure level by 2, the change in dB should be 6 dB, basically, right? So for this question, we want to calculate in terms of number how we got this 6 dB. So let's say at the first level, or basically the original level, the sound pressure is given by SPL1, and then we increase it to SPL2, whereby at SPL2 the pressure is 2 times. Right? Initially the pressure is P at SPL1, now the pressure is 2P at SPL2. So we know at SPL1, our sound pressure level 1 is equals to 10 log 10, whatever P is, squared over P reference. And this P reference will be the same. Okay, 20 micropascal. It will not change. So sound pressure level 2, SPL2 will be equals to 10 log 10. Pressure at SPL2, basically 2P squared. You'll get 4P squared here over P reference squared again. And we know this guy can be expanded as these two terms. All right, so we have 4 times P squared over P squared ref here. Log that value, so we know if we have multiplication in log, it is equals to a summation of log. So we have 10 log 10 P squared over P reference squared plus 10 log 10 4. So this guy, this initial term is our sound pressure level at the first or the initial position, right, with pressure P. And then 10 log 10 4 will give you 6 dB or about 6 dB. Okay, it's not an exact value, close to 6 dB. So that's the reason why we know by increasing pressure twice, we'll have 6 dB increase in sound pressure level. Okay, this is how we prove it in terms of calculation. Next, we want to calculate what will be the change in sound power level if sound power is double. Okay, instead of doubling sound pressure, now we double the sound power. In physical sense, might be instead of using one speaker, you use two equal speaker, okay, or similar speaker. So we do the same analysis again. Take SWL1 as the initial sound power, where power is W, and SWL2 as the sound power level when the sorry, this is not pressure, this power is to W. Okay, so SWL1 is 10 log 10 W over W reference. SWL2 is equal to 10 log 10 2W over W reference. And then we know this term can be expanded into two parts. The first part here is exactly our sound power level 1. So 10 log 10 2 will give you 3 dB. So by doubling the power, the sound power level will be increased by 3 dB. Okay, so that's how we solve this example. All right, the fourth example, if we increase or double the intensity, how would the sound pressure level change? Okay, again, the idea is still the same. We can have SPL1 equals to the sound pressure level at intensity 1, okay, and 2I at sound pressure level intensity 2. You can do that, or just simplify thing by taking the delta in sound pressure level, or the increase in sound pressure level will be equals to 10 log 10 2I over I reference, okay, minus 10 log 10 I over I reference. And then based on this, we know that we have only two terms here that will be left out, which is 10 log 10 2, which is equals to 3 dB. Okay, how do we relate sound pressure level with sound intensity level? Basically, we know that pressure intensity is related with pressure squared. Okay, so that's the reason why we can calculate it like this. Okay, so this is how we use these three equations to calculate sound pressure level, sound intensity level, and also sound power level. Okay, intensity is proportional to P squared. Okay, so instead of having P over P reference squared, in the sound pressure level equation, you can also use I over I reference in the sound pressure level equation. Okay, just to reiterate what I mentioned here, sound pressure level is equals to 10 log 10 okay. So this is the original equation for sound pressure level. If we substitute P squared over P reference as I over I reference, this will be equals to 10 log 10 I over I reference. All right. So basically, the sound pressure level can be obtained from pressure or from intensity. Okay.
Okay, brother.
Normally for this type of exercise, if we have face-to-face class, I will ask some of you to be in front and solve it for everyone. But since we have online, I will not ask each one of you to solve this online. Okay, it's too cumbersome to do that. Normally, I love to ask people to solve problems in front of the class for two reasons. One is to shock them. Okay, they will have a trauma, which is good. Why? Because if they have a trauma, they will always remember whatever question or how they solve the question in front of the class. And secondly, of course, if we solve it in front, then I will know where your understanding is. Okay, which part that you don't fully understand when you are solving it in front. All right. So we can do arithmetic to the dB units. Okay, basically we can add them up, subtract them. Okay, normally these are the operation that we do for dB scale. Okay, we don't multiply them, we don't divide them. Okay, we just add up or subtract dB units. So in normal units, if you have 50 whatever unit plus 50 whatever unit again, you'll have 100 of that particular unit. For example, 50 centimeter plus 50 centimeter will give you 100 centimeter. But since dB is not an actual unit, it is a ratio. 50 dB plus 50 dB will not give you 100 dB. Okay, it will give you 53 dB. Okay, so it's not like normal unit. Okay, it's a ratio of units. So basically, in physical sense, if you have two sound source and they are equal, let's say you have two speakers with equal driver, equal watt, for example, 2 watt speaker, 2 watt speaker. So both of them will produce the same sound pressure level. If you are at certain distance away and that distance are the same for both of them, the sound pressure level here at this particular distance will be equals to sound pressure level for one speaker plus 3 dB. Okay, so even though you have two, it will not be equals to double of sound pressure level for each one of them. It will be just equals to sound pressure level for one speaker plus 3 dB. So what happens if we have more than that? Okay, before that, if we have different values of sound pressure level for each speaker. In this case, I'm assuming that both of them is having the same power. So basically the sound pressure level from each one of them is the same. If we say generally they are not the same, okay, so they are not having the same power. So you have sound pressure level 1 and sound pressure level 2. The value that we add to the sound pressure level will be dependent on the difference between these two sound pressure level. If they are the same, if sound pressure level 1 is equal to sound pressure level 2, so the value that we add here is 3 dB. Okay, it is valid only when SPL1 is equal to SPL2. All right. Forgive my bad handwriting here. It turns out that since I have multiple monitor here, my handwriting is being stretched a little bit, so it's quite difficult to write. Okay, so if you have two equal sound source, equal sound pressure level, you need to add 3 dB in your answer to get the sum of these two sound pressure level. If we have a difference in terms of sound pressure level, let's say the difference is 0, meaning equal sound pressure level, you need to add 3 dB, okay, to your sound pressure level. And that sound pressure level can be from either one of them. However, for example, if we have a difference in sound pressure level, let's say SPL1 minus SPL2 equals to 4 dB, right? So the amount that you need to add will be roughly equals to 1.4 dB. And this amount will be added to the one among these two which is larger. In this case, if I'm saying SPL1 minus SPL2 equals to 4 dB, implicitly I'm saying that, explicitly I'm saying that this SPL1 is larger than SPL2. Okay, so this 1.4 dB should be add up to SPL1. All right. So for example, sound pressure level 1 is 55 dB, sound pressure level 2 is 51. The difference is 4 dB. So based on this chart, the delta L, or the difference in sound pressure level, will the difference is 4. Yes, the sound pressure level that you need to add is 1.4 dB, right? From 4 delta dB, you need to add 1.4. Okay, and this value need to be added to the one that is higher. So in this case, it need to be added to L1. So 55 plus 1.4 will have 56.4 dB. So this will be your resulting sound pressure level when you have these two L1 and L2 sound source. All right. So if we have more than two sound source, okay, for example, more than two speaker 1, 2 until n number of speaker, and for each one of them you have certain sound pressure level. If in the simplest case you are saying that if all of them has the same speaker, the same driver, the same sound pressure level, the total sound pressure level for all of them will be equal to the level of one of them, L1 or L2 or L3, doesn't matter, plus 10 log n. N is the number of speaker that you take into consideration. Right? This is valid only when their sound pressure level are the same. However, for general case, if we have L1, L2, and L3 and so on that are not the same, so the resultant sound pressure level, when you have all of these speaker producing sound at once or simultaneously, you have the sound pressure level equals to 10 log 10, the sum of 10 power of that, the level for each one of them divided by 10. Okay, so for example, the equation will be something like this: 10 log 10, 10 power of L1 over 10, or 0.1 L1. This is sound pressure level for speaker 1, plus 10 power of 0.1 times L2, plus 10 power of 0.1 over L3, and so on until 10 power 0.1 times Ln. Okay, so this is the general equation. If the sound pressure level for all of these sound source are not the same, if they are the same, we can simplify the equation. For example, for two equal speaker, we have the total sound pressure level equals to the sound pressure level for each one of them plus 3 dB. If you have 10 equal speaker, the total sound pressure level will be sound pressure level for any one of them plus 10 dB. Okay. So we can use that particular equation, okay, this equation, or we can also estimate based on this ruler, okay, or this chart here. Okay, so basically, if we have difference, okay, this is difference in dB for any difference in dB, this is how much we need to add in dB, okay, to the higher level. All right, so for example, if we have 0 difference in dB, so we need to add 3 dB to the high level. This happens when we have two equal sound source. So okay, two sound source. So the difference between them is equal to 0. So the total sound pressure level will be equal to sound pressure level for each one of them plus 3 dB. Okay, this value 3 dB. So as you can see from this graph, the higher the difference between the sound source, the less correction is needed to the high level. So for example, if you have sound source that are 10 dB apart from each other, so you probably need to add about this value to the highest sound pressure level, way less than 0.5, probably 0.4 something. Okay. So using this equation, we can answer this type of problem. For example, if we have two sound sources operating together and we were told that one produces sound pressure level at 74 dB when operating by itself, and the other one is producing 70 dB when operating by itself, what will be the sound pressure level when both of them are operating together? Okay, so we can use this equation straight away. Okay, so basically sound pressure level 1 is equal to 10 log 10 P1 over P reference, which is equal to 74 dB. Okay, and we know this guy will be equals to, or P1 squared over P reference squared will be equals to 10 power of 7.4. And sound pressure level 2 is equal to 70 dB, which will give us P squared over P ref squared equals to 10 power of 7. So the total sound pressure level is basically 10 log 10, the sum of these two. Okay, so 10 log 10, P1 squared over P reference squared plus P2 squared over P reference squared. You will have this term, and it will be equal to 75.4. Or if you want to use the difference in terms of dB, here we have 74 and 70. The difference, delta dB, is just equal to 4 dB. So based on what we have seen before in this figure, for example, if the difference is just 4 dB, we need to add roughly about 1.4 to the highest value. So based on this question, we have two sound pressure level, 74 is the highest, so we need to add 1.4 to 74. It will give us the same answer, 75.4 dB. This will be the total sound pressure level. All right. So this is how it is being calculated. Okay. Any question so far?
No question, Doctor.
No question. Okay. Probably in the real world, you might be tasked to do some vibration reduction or noise reduction, okay, to some machines. Okay, so for example, you have something like this, a car, okay, and somehow you can measure what will be the sound pressure level for each one of the noise contributor for this car. In this case, let's say we have 4 noise contributor. The first one will be the engine. Okay, it is producing 80 dB of sound, and then you have a fan noise which is producing 60 dB by itself, and then you have intake noise, okay, which is producing 50 dB, and then you have exhaust noise which is producing 70 dB. So we have 4 sound sources here, and each one of them are producing sound pressure level at different value. Okay, so if you want to calculate what will be the total sound pressure level, what question you can use? You can use what we have shown here. Okay, basically the sound pressure level. Sometimes people also write sound pressure level as just L. Okay, to make it short, this will be equal to 10 log 10 take this guy. No, I can't take that guy. I take this guy? No. Okay. Total equals to 10 log 10. And then we have here, since we have 4, so the first one will be 10 power of 80 over 10 plus 10 power of 70 over 10 plus 10 power of 60 over 10 plus 10 power of 50 over 10. Okay. So you can use the equation to calculate the total sound pressure level. Or if you are lazy like me, okay, normally what I will do, I will look at the sound pressure level for each one of them and try to figure out what will be the difference between them. So the highest one is 80, right? So 80 dB is the highest. Okay, 80 is the highest. All right. So between 80 and the second highest, here we have 70 dB. The difference between them is 10 dB. Okay, so delta dB there is equal to 10 dB. All right. So what I will do, I will just take 80 dB and add up with 70 dB first. The difference is 10 dB. And based on our rule of thumb here, for example, if the difference is 10 dB, I will need to add roughly about 0.4 something. Okay, let's say, just for simplicity's sake, 0.4. Okay, so that means I need to add 0.4 to the higher level. Okay, and that higher level is 80. So that means if I have 80 dB, add with 70 dB, it will give me about 80.4 dB. Okay, fine. So we have calculated these two, 80 plus 70 dB. Next, I will add up 80 dB, 80.4 dB, sorry, with 60 dB, for example. Okay, and between these two, the delta dB will be way higher compared to the previous one. It's way higher than 10 dB. Okay, it's close to 20 dB. So if we look at our graph here, if we are considering 20 dB, the value is way less than 0.05. Okay, let's say I just take 0.05 for simplicity's sake. So that means I need to add 80.4 with 0.05. So it gives me 80.45 dB. Right? Now, if we consider the last one, 50 dB, 80.45 plus 50 dB, these two values are about 30 dB apart from each other. Okay, so 30 dB is very huge, not even included in this graph. So basically, what it means there, the value that you need to add up is close to 0. Okay, so in this case, what will happen? We'll have the same value again, 80.45 dB. Okay, lens back to the same value. And if you look at this value and compare with the sound pressure level for the noise contributor, you'll be seeing that this value is very much close to 80 dB. Okay, very close to 80 dB. All right. So what's the moral of the story here? Anyone?
The most noises made at the 80 dB part.
Okay, the highest noise contributor will be the engine, the 80 dB. Okay, that is obvious. Other than that, remember you are tasked to reduce the noise for this car. So based on this analysis, what can you say in order to reduce the noise for the car?
Try to reduce the most at the from combustion noise.
Reduce
and
the vibration.
vehicle tethering.
Okay.
On that.
If you have multiple sound source like this, okay, multiple noise contributor in a machine or car or whatever, okay, always tackle the one that has the highest sound pressure level. Okay, why is that? Because if you tackle, let's say, you remove the intake noise, is there any difference? None. Okay, no difference at all. Okay, in terms of sound pressure level, it's still about 80 dB. If you remove the fan noise, is there any difference at all? None. It will be about 80 dB. If you remove the exhaust noise, is there any different at all? None. It will still be about 80 dB. Okay. However, if you remove the biggest noise contributor, okay, if you remove this guy, the engine, now you'll be seeing that the total sound pressure level will drop. Okay, it will not be 80 dB, it will be way less than that. For example, if you remove the engine and you just add up 60 plus 50 plus 70, I would say the sound pressure level now is about 70 dB. Okay, you don't have to trust me, do the calculation, you'll see that the sound pressure level will be about 70 dB. If you remove 80 dB and 70 dB, now the sound pressure level will be about 60 dB. Okay, probably some of you have known this. One of the main problem with electric car is noise. Okay, not noise coming from engine, since we remove the engine, right? Previously with internal combustion car, people are used to engine noise. So engine tends to be very noisy. So if engine is noisy, let's say it is producing 80 decibel, you can barely hear noise coming from exhaust, noise coming from intake, fan noise, or any wind that is passing through the car, any wind flow. All right. However, once you start to replace this engine with electric motor, for example, and this electric motor is producing noise that is way less than 80 dB. For example, let's say it is producing only 50 dB. Now you have a problem because the customer, the passenger now can hear. Of course, if you remove the engine, they will be removing the exhaust as well. Okay, there's no exhaust for electric car, so these two will be gone. Okay, so you are replacing with motor, and this motor is producing only 50 dB. Okay, so due to this motor that is way quieter compared to internal combustion engine, now the user can start to hear, probably they don't hear fan noise or intake noise, since these two are related to internal combustion engine. They now starts to hear your aircon noise, right? They start to hear the airflow. Okay, and of course they starts to hear your tire noise more. Okay, since these are now the major noise contributor for your electric car. Okay, the engine or the propulsion mechanism is no longer the main noise contributor. Okay, so if you have any noise issues, always figure out which one is producing the highest level of noise and tackle that first. Okay, once that is tackled, normally the rest will follow. Okay, the sound pressure level will drop. However, if you tackle the other noise contributor and ignoring this main noise contributor, you will see that the sound pressure level will remain almost the same as if you have done nothing at all. Okay, so that's how we use our understanding in this addition of dB or sound pressure level to solve noise problem. All right. Next, we have subtraction of dB. Okay, here we have two cases here. Okay, one with this sound source, all right, and then one is without. And we are measuring the sound at the same location with that particular sound source and without that particular sound source. So the difference will be captured by this equation. If we look at the equation, it looks almost similar like the addition of dB. It's just that we change addition with subtraction. Okay, not much has changed here. Very simple. All right. So what happens if we want to use this understanding in the real world? Okay. So in the real world, normally when we do our measurement, we cannot run away from background noise. Okay, it is very difficult to measure things at zero sound pressure level, or basically without any background noise. So we normally measure things with noise. So our measurement with noise will be given by this Ls plus N. So this is sound pressure level with noise. Okay. So let's say you have a machine and you measure the sound pressure level of this machine with the available background noise. And then you turn off this machine. So now you are measuring only the noise level, okay, given by this Ln here. So this is the background noise level. So you have two measurements here. One is measurement with the machine, and the other one is the measurement without the machine. In both instances, you are also measuring the background noise. So if you compare the difference between these two scenarios, if the difference is less than 3, we will say that it is not acceptable. Okay, why it is not acceptable? Because if the difference is less than 3, that means the noise is very loud. Okay, it has masked the noise or the sound coming from the machine, so it's not acceptable. We are actually not measuring the sound coming from the machine. We are measuring the background noise. Okay, if the difference between these two scenario is way bigger than 10, we can ignore the background noise. Okay, why is that? Because the sound pressure level of the background noise is too small, okay, to affect the measurement that we take for this particular machine. If the difference between these two scenario is between 3 to 10 dB, we need to do some correction. Okay, so let's say if we look at this scenario, delta L is less than 3, what happens here? If we are here, delta L is less than 3, okay, so that means let's say if it is equals to 3, okay, if it is equals to 3, so here we know we need to subtract 3 dB from the sound pressure level, okay, for the measurement with noise. So that means if we measure with noise at 60 dB, and if the difference with noise without the machine is 57, for example, so the difference is 3 dB, so we need to subtract 3 dB to the measurement with noise. Or in other way around, if I'm saying, if we use the same delta L here, which is 7 dB, okay, if the difference between measurement with noise, measurement with the machine and without the machine is 7 dB, for example, so we just need to subtract 1 dB from the measurement with the machine. So 60 minus 1 dB, so we have the measurement equals to 59 dB. So this is the correction that we made when our measurement is within 3 to 10 dB. Okay. So if the difference is less than 3 dB, Although from this graph, you might say, okay, you can also do correction. Okay, for example, if the difference is 3 dB, we can subtract 3 dB. But if the difference is just 3 dB, we know from our perception of sound or noise, it is not perceptible to us. Okay, we cannot even differentiate two sound source with only 3 dB apart. Okay, they almost sound similar. So that's the reason why we reject a measurement whereby the measurement with the machine and without the machine is just having a difference of 3 dB. The best will be if the difference is way larger than 10 dB. So in these instances, if this way larger than 10 dB, you can see that we need to subtract a very small sound pressure level value. So that means our measurement is not affected by the background noise, okay, or very affected in a minor way with this background noise. All right. So that's the idea how we use this subtraction dB equation in the field. Okay, let's say we have something like this. Now, for example, 7 in the factory, the noise pressure level with all the machine running is 101 dB. If we have only one machine, this particular machine is producing 99 dB. Okay, what would be the level in this particular factory if all the machine is running except this particular machine that is producing 99 dB? So let's say we have 10 machine, and the sound pressure level from this 10 machine is 101 dB. One of them is producing 99 dB. So if we switch this off, what will be the sound pressure level for all other machine running at once? Okay, so in this case, we know the difference between 101 and 99 is equal to 2 dB. So the difference is 2 dB. So we need to subtract from the higher level 4.5 from this figure. So 2, so we need to subtract about this value, 4.5 dB, right? So basically, the sound pressure level will be equal to 101 minus 4.5, which is 96.5, when all the machine is operating except the one producing 99 dB. Okay, so this is how we use this figure to solve this problem, or we can also use total sound pressure level will be equals to 10 log 10 power of, in this case, 101 over 10 minus 10 power of 99 over 10. All right, so this will be giving you the same numbers here, 96.5 dB, right, in terms of equation, or we can also use graph. All right, any question so far?
So far, no question ada.
All right, thank you. Next, instead of having only one value of sound pressure level, we can also do averaging for this sound pressure level. Okay, let's say we have n number of sound source, we can average the sound source coming from this n. We can average the sound pressure level coming from this n sound source. Normally, if you have, let's say, 10 machine and you want to know what will be the sound pressure level or the average sound pressure level for this 10 machine, you don't take the average of them. Okay, you add them up together. Normally we do this kind of averaging when we are calculating sound pressure level for each frequency band, for example. Okay, so you have one machine and this machine has different sound pressure level at different frequency. Okay, so say this is at the first octave, second octave, third octave, fourth, fifth, and so on. So for each octave, we have different sound pressure level. In reporting the sound pressure level for this machine, you cannot say, okay, this machine is having a certain value at 1 octave, and then whatever value for 2 octave, 3 octave, and so on. It's too cumbersome. Normally, what people do, people will average the sample pressure level. Okay, average coding for each octave line here, and the way we put average is through this equation. So for each one of them, will give you one sample pressure level. So the average sample pressure level will be equal to 10 log 10, 10 power of sample pressure level for each one of this line over 10, and then add them up, divide by the number of line or sound source in this case. Okay, so that's how we average the sample pressure level. So the hypothetical question would be something like this. If you have 80, 82, 84, 86, and 88 dB sound pressure level, what would be the average of them? Okay, so it's very simple. The average sound pressure level will be equal to 10 log 10, 10 power of 80 over 10 or 10 power of 8 plus 10 power of 8, 82 over 10 or 8.2 plus 10 power of 8.4 over 10 or 84 over 10 or 8.4 and so on. Okay, so add them up, divide by number of sound pressure level under consideration here, which is 5. You have 84.9 dB as the average sound pressure level, right? But normally in the field, we don't use this calculation to find the average sound pressure level when a certain number of machine is operating. Okay, normally we just take the sum of sound pressure level in that instance. All right. Okay. When we talk about sound pressure level, okay, it is also being affected by the type of weighting function that we use during measurement. So for example, if we have zero weighting function, basically we just take whatever value being captured by the microphone, we have this level, which is the linear level or the LZ level, okay, without weighting function. Okay, if we apply a certain weighting function, this particular weighting function will tend to reduce the amplitude at certain range and amplify amplitude at certain range of frequency. Okay, so for example here, this is what we have. At each frequency, we have different weighting coming from different weighting function. Okay, so for example, at 10 hertz, okay, curve A is minus by 70.4 dB from the actual value. Okay, it's being pushed downward for low frequency range. Okay, and so on. So each one of these weighting function will change the value of sound pressure level for each particular frequency line. The only frequency whereby all of these weighting function will have the same value is at this location. Okay, at this special frequency, which is at 1 kilohertz. So at 1 kilohertz, it doesn't matter which weighting function that you use, all of them will give you the same sound pressure level, right? Okay, so bear in mind on this. Sometimes the sound pressure level might be given in terms of certain weighting function, and you need to calculate what will be the sound pressure level at other weighting function. So you have to use this table to calculate that value, or in the actual measurement, you just click a button or push one option, then the value will be automatically changed to other weighting function that you like. Okay, so for example, if you have something like this, linear weighting function will give us 70 dB at 40 hertz. What will be the sound pressure level with A weighting function, B weighting function, and C weighting function for this value at 40 hertz? So look at the 40 hertz line. Okay, 40 hertz is somewhere, yeah, somewhere there. Okay, so this value is actually for linear weighting function. So to calculate what will be LA, LA will be equal to L linear minus at 40 here. Oh, sorry, plus. So it depends on the sign here. So if it is minus, so you just put the minus sign there. So LA will be equal to the linear, which is 70 dB minus 34.6. That will be the sound pressure level with A weighting function. Okay, same goes for B and so on. Okay, so you just need to look at the correct weighting function. For example, to calculate LB is equal to L linear plus minus 14.2. To calculate LC is equals to L linear minus 2. All right. Okay.
Okay, brother.
Okay. We can also calculate what we call as overall sound pressure level, okay, or what we call as all pass level, okay. So in terms of the equation, this overall sound pressure level will be equal to 10 log 10 sum of all the lines or the frequency component that we are taking into consideration. Okay, so basically it looks almost similar like average. Okay, it's just removing the over n terms there. Okay, so without over n, you have your overall sound pressure level. Don't worry too much. Normally, I will give a list of equation for this calculation. You just need to know which to use in answering the question. So, for example, we have something like this. Certain noise level is analyzed in certain octave band, and it is a non-weighted value. We need to calculate what will be the overall non-weighted value, and also the overall with a weighting function. Okay, so sound pressure level is given in terms of frequency or octave band. So the overall for linear scale will be using the same values here, exactly the same values without any modification. So you have L overall equals to 10 log 10, 10 power of 80 over 10 or power of 8 plus 10 power of 82.5 over 10 or power 8.25 plus 10 power 7.75 plus 10 power 7 plus 10 power of 6.5 and plus 10 power of 6. So you have the overall sound pressure level equals to 84.4. This is the unweighted overall sound pressure level. If we have a weighting function applied, so we need to apply the correction to each octave value. So for example, here at 125, we need to add minus 16.1 dB. Okay, so this is the correction value for a weighting function. So 80 minus 16.1 will have 63.9 and so on. So you do the correction for each frequency, and then we can calculate what will be the overall level using the corrected value of sound pressure level, or basically the sound pressure level with a weighting function here. So we have 78.4 dB. So the value will be different with different weighting function. Okay. I think I will stop the class here because all of this is mathematics actually. Okay, different types of parameters will use different equation and so on. Probably at the moment it is not clear to you why we calculate it this way or that way and so on. Most of the time, the type of equation or the type of equation that we want to use will depends on the requirement, and also it depends on standard as well. So for certain measurement, standards require that you measure total value or average value or equivalent value and so on. Okay, so that's the reason why we have different types of equation here to calculate what will be the sound pressure level at certain instances and so on. Okay, I will stop here. I don't want to overload you with too much equation. All right, any question?
No question, brother.
Okay, if you have no question, enjoy the long weekend. For your assignment, this semester I think I like to do something different. Okay, for assignment 1, this is what I want you to do. Okay, which is to I can write. My handwriting is too bad with this setup. Okay, I want you to develop and fabricate Okay, I want you to develop and fabricate a Bluetooth speaker. All right. How? Specs of this speaker, I would say up to you. Okay. What I want you to do is to develop and fabricate a Bluetooth speaker as best as you can. Okay. At the second half of this semester, I think we will have face-to-face session eventually. Okay. We will test your speaker. Okay. How do we test your speaker? Through the tone sound test. Okay. Remember, from 20 to 20 kilohertz test. Okay. We will do a torture test to your speaker to play this tone sound, and then we will take a measurement using a proper lab microphone. Okay. And based on this measurement, we will rate the performance of your speaker. All right. So you have to develop and fabricate this speaker. At the second half of the semester, we'll test your speaker in the class. And then for this project, I would like you to make a video. Okay, how you built it. Right? And then post it in YouTube. Okay. Of course, you don't need to make it public. You can make it private. I just want a link for it to mark your work. Okay. Any question?
Doctor, is this group project?
This is an individual project. Yes. Okay. It's a challenge to all of you. In the end of the day, you'll have a speaker, a Bluetooth speaker for your own use. Okay. And probably some of you might doubt yourself on your capability, especially in terms of wiring and whatnot. Don't worry so much. Okay. You can browse through YouTube. There are tons of info on this. Okay. People are doing DIY Bluetooth speaker a lot these days. Okay. I just want you to try and develop your own. At least in the end of the day, you have an idea how a speaker performs, what kind of sound it produces, and so on. Okay. So of course, we need deadline, right? Okay. So the deadline for this should be before test one. No, it's not before test one. Deadline is not test one. We have semester break. Okay. So your deadline is the semester break. Why semester break? Because after semester break, we want to test the speaker physically. Okay. Yeah, mid semester break. My bad. All right. Any question?
Hello.
Yes.
Doctor, is there we can use any recycled product, like we can take the Bluetooth module or something else from other speakers like that?
Up to you.
Okay.
Okay. What I don't want you to do is you dismantle a actual Bluetooth speaker and make it yours. That is cheating, I would say. Okay. Don't do that. You can actually make Bluetooth speaker by your own.
Okay, doctor.
All right. You feel free to make the housing using Milo can or whatever that you like. Okay. All right. If there's no question, happy holiday. See you again next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor.